You didn't find this by chance. That phrase probably feels familiar by now. You've seen it in captions, in comment sections, maybe even whispered it to yourself, when something aligned too perfectly to be coincidence. But this time, it's different. Because this time, you didn't just find the video. Your field drew it in, not your mind, not your scrolling thumb, your frequency. There's a rhythm that plays beneath the noise of everyday life, a current of memory, a pulse of knowing, and that current brought you here, not because you're broken, not because you need to be fixed, but because something inside you has been whispering, "There's more. There's something I'm ready to remember." The ancient teachings of Thoth, they were never meant to be locked in stone or buried in scrolls. They were meant to be felt, heard in the spaces between thoughts, recognized not by your logic, but by the resonance in your chest. He doesn't speak in commands, he doesn't demand belief. He waits until your field is attuned enough to receive. And maybe that's what this is, not a lecture, not a message, but a meeting, a recognition. Have you ever noticed how sometimes a video appears at just the right time? After a dream, after a breakdown, after a question you couldn't quite put into words. That's not the algorithm, that's coherence. That's your inner world calling forward what it's ready to hold. So this isn't the start of a journey outward. You're not going anywhere. You're coming home, back into your body, back into the field, back into the truth you've always known, but maybe never dared to live. Take a breath, not to relax, but to return, not to consume, but to remember, because what you're about to hear isn't just ancient knowledge. It's you, finally tuning in. You eat clean, you meditate every morning. You've worked on your mindset, read all the books, practiced gratitude, and tried to raise your vibration. So why does your body still feel off? This question haunts more people than you might think. And maybe you've asked it quietly too late at night, when the ache returns, or when the anxiety doesn't fade, despite doing everything right. Here's something no one really talks about. You can do all the right things on the surface and still carry a frequency that keeps you sick. Because healing isn't about habits, it's about resonance. You might be thinking positively, repeating affirmations, avoiding negativity. But if your field, your energetic blueprint is still wired with unresolved memories, contradictions, and unspoken fears, then your body is listening to that. You're not broken, you're not failing. You're simply broadcasting two frequencies at once, the one you want to believe, and the one you haven't dared to look at. The truth is, your body doesn't respond to words, it responds to vibration. So while your mouth says, "I am safe," your energy might still be whispering, "But what if I'm not?" That's why your nervous system won't fully relax. That's why inflammation lingers or sleep never truly restores. It's not sabotage. It's your field asking you to listen deeper. Healing doesn't begin with trying harder. It begins with hearing what you haven't yet understood. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not behind. You're not doing it wrong. You're just being invited into a deeper layer. One that doesn't need another method, but a moment of radical stillness. You're not being punished, you're being pointed inward, not toward another fix, but toward a truth. The moment you stop chasing healing and start sensing what's been holding on underneath, something subtle begins to shift. That shift, even if it's just a single deep breath, might be the real beginning of your return. Are you ready to feel instead of fix? What if your pain wasn't a problem to fix, but a message trying to be heard? We've been taught to treat disease like a mistake, like something went wrong, a glitch in the system, an invader we need to destroy. But what if it's not? What if the body in its quiet brilliance is speaking in the only way it knows how? Not through language, but through vibration. A sore throat isn't always a virus. Sometimes, it's an unspoken truth pressing against the edges of your voice. Back pain may be not just posture, but a lifetime of carrying weight that was never yours. The body remembers. What the mind represses, the body expresses. And when the mind refuses to feel, the body whispers louder, until it has to scream. But this isn't punishment. It's not betrayal. It's your field, your energetic memory asking to be witnessed. Because healing doesn't come from silencing the symptom. It comes from listening to the signal. When you stop asking, "How do I get rid of this?" and start asking, "What is this trying to tell me?" something shifts. You become an interpreter, not a fixer. You stop fighting your body and start partnering with it. This is the moment of return, not to who you were before the illness, but to the part of you that was never broken, just unheard. So the next time your body aches, pause, breathe, ask gently, "What are you showing me that I was too afraid to feel?" And listen. That moment of stillness might be the most powerful medicine of all. There's a kind of prison with no bars, no locks, no guards, and yet it's one of the hardest to escape. It lives in your chest, a tightness that won't leave. In your jaw, always clenched, even in sleep. In the sudden rush of heat behind your eyes when someone says, "You're safe now," and your body doesn't believe them. This prison is made of memory, not always the kind you can recall, but the kind your field never forgot. The mind can forget a moment. The body cannot. What you didn't process, what you buried to survive, still pulses underneath the surface. Quiet, cold, unresolved. And the thing is, that frozen vibration, it doesn't just go away. It shapes how you see yourself, how you react in relationships, even how open you are to healing. You might not realize it, but your energy can still be orbiting around a moment you thought was long gone. Freedom doesn't start when the world changes. It starts the moment you stop running from what's already inside you. So how do you begin? Start here. Where in your body do you feel the most resistance? Where does it tighten, tremble, pull back? That's not weakness. That's the door. The invitation isn't to relive the pain. It's to witness it, without judgment, without urgency, just presence. Because when you bring your attention, your soft, sacred awareness, to the places you've abandoned, you begin to thaw the frozen parts of you, not all at once, but breath by breath. They begin to remember what it feels like to be free. You don't need to force healing. You just need to stop ignoring the parts of you still waiting to be seen. And in that seeing, the field shifts, and so do you. You've heard it before, everything is energy. Healing is vibration. Raise your frequency and transformation will follow. But what if, no matter how much you try to raise it, something keeps pulling you back? What if the real reason you're healing hasn't started is because there's a step you skipped, not out of ignorance, but out of instinct? The step called confrontation, not the aggressive kind, not war, but an intimate, brave stillness with what you've swept under the rug. See, frequency flows like water. But if there's debris, old pain, buried shame, forgotten truths, the current gets blocked, no matter how powerful the energy you try to channel. If there's emotional residue you haven't met with honesty, it won't land. The most common reason people feel stuck on their healing path isn't because they're doing it wrong. It's because they're trying to build over a foundation they've never cleared. But this isn't about dredging up all your trauma. It's about making space. Making space by asking, what am I still resisting? What feeling have I labeled too messy, too inconvenient, too dangerous to feel? And then breathing. A long, slow inhale through your nose. A softer, longer exhale through your mouth. Let your body lead. Let your breath carry the parts of you that never had permission to speak. Maybe you write, not to be poetic, just to be honest. I'm afraid of this. I'm angry about that. I miss something I never got. This isn't weakness, it's calibration. Because healing isn't summoned by perfection. It's activated by presence. And presence begins with surrender. Not a collapse, but a conscious choice to stop holding it all together and start holding yourself instead. The field only responds when you do. So today, maybe don't try to fix. Just sit, breathe, and ask gently, what truth in me has waited too long to be felt? That's the step, that's the door. There's a reason no healing ever truly begins with urgency. You can't force the heart to open. You can't rush the nervous system into trust. Because healing, real healing, doesn't begin when you try harder. It begins when the body finally whispers, I think I'm safe now. See, your body isn't just flesh and bones. It's an ancient, living archive, recording every sigh you held back, every moment you flinched but smiled, every time you were told, you're too much, or get over it. And in that archive, there's no concept of time, only memory, only signal. So when you try to move on without actually feeling safe, your body knows it won't release, it won't rebuild. Not because it's broken, but because it's protecting you. But here's the secret most don't tell you. Safety isn't something you wait for. It's something you begin to create. And sometimes, it begins in the smallest signs, like the moment your chest softens, or a sudden wave of tears you didn't see coming. That shiver down your spine that isn't fear, but recognition. Your system saying, this feels true. This feels right. These aren't just coincidences. They're not overreactions, they're activation. Because when the field detects a frequency of presence, when you show up for yourself without judgment, the body gets the signal. We're allowed to let go now. This is why many people feel more physical shifts during stillness than during action. It's not in the doing, it's in the being. And when the body begins to trust the energy you're holding, it does what it was always designed to do. It begins to heal, not because you forced it, but because you gave it what it needed all along, a reason to feel safe again. So let this be your reminder, you don't have to be fixed. You just have to feel safe enough to unfold. And maybe that's enough to begin. You felt it before that spark. A phrase that lit up your chest, a realization that cracked something open. For a moment, everything made sense. You felt clearer, lighter, real, but then life happens. Notifications, bills, conversations that leave you empty. And that spark, it fades, not because it wasn't real, but because it wasn't anchored. Healing is more than a moment of insight. It's a shift in frequency, and every frequency needs repetition to become identity. So how do you hold on to what you just touched? Start with your hands. Literally, place them on your heart. Feel your own presence. You're not imagining it, you're tuning in. Then write, not essays, not poetry, just truth, short, sacred, anchored in now. Write something like, I am not my pain, I am the field that transcends it. Or whatever truth just moved through you. Repeat it not like a chant, but like a recalibration. Each word is a thread weaving a new pattern into your field. Then say it aloud. Yes, even if you're alone, sound is vibration. When you speak from that place of presence, you're not just saying words, you're imprinting frequency into your system. And if you lose the signal, don't chase. Return. Repeat the action, not to recreate the emotion, but to ground the reality. This is the part most people miss. You don't need more knowledge. You need ritual, something to return to remember with, to re-enter the field. So next time you feel that spark, don't let it float away. Anchor it with your breath, with your touch, with your truth written into form, not because it makes you enlightened, but because it makes you consistent. And in healing, consistency is devotion. Devotion creates coherence, and coherence rewrites your life. There comes a moment in every healing journey, a moment that doesn't look like fireworks, or tears, or grand revelations. It looks like silence, like stillness, like hearing your own voice whisper something new, something ancient. I am not my pain. I am the field that transcends it. Let those words sink in, not as poetry, not as a mantra, but as a new identity. Because somewhere along the way, you were told your scars defined you, that your worth had to be earned through resilience. That pain was a badge of authenticity. But what if that was never true? What if the pain wasn't your home? Just the threshold? What if the wound was only there to guide you back to the version of you who never broke? This is the invitation now to remember not just who you are, but what you vibrate. Write it, say it, live from it. I am not my pain. I am the field that transcends it. And don't just say it when things feel aligned. Say it when the doubt creeps in, when the old stories rise, when you feel like you've lost your center. That's when it matters most, not to fake strength, but to anchor truth. You don't need to be fully healed to start living from this place. You don't need to be perfect to be free, because worthiness is not a reward for healing. It's the reason you're remembering. So breathe, return, not to fix, but to reclaim, not your past, but your frequency, the one that's been waiting, beneath the noise, behind the pain, within the field, the one that always knew you were never broken, you just forgot you were light.